Noreen was supposed to be born April 6th, but somehow or other she didn't want to come. But on the morning of April 19th, I went downstairs and I emptied the glass milk jar and put it down in a milk chute, and I tripped and fell. So early April 20th. By the way, that's Hitler's birthday too. And I started to feel pains. And so then I told my sister Marion, and she got all excited. But I didn't tell my mama because she would get more nervous about it. But then finally at noontime, the pains came, and so they took me to the hospital. But my mom made me eat before I went. And an hour later in the hospital, everything I ate, all that Croatian food, they gave it, and I went, out they went. So in between times I had the labor pains, and then by the time it got to be around 9 o'clock, they were pretty bad. And Dr. N came, and he took care of me, but he came late because he was taking care of a man that drowned, and he had the bends, and so he was in a hyper chamber, you know, taking care of him and taking care of me. And so then at 10:10 at night, my little girl, Noreen Patricia, was born. And so the next morning, around 6 o'clock, I got up and washed myself, took a bath, and dressed everything. I was sitting in a chair, and the nurse comes and says, "What are you doing in a chair? You get back in bed. You're going to get elephantitis." So I went back to bed. And then a little while later, I heard a noise. I heard somebody howling, "Whoa!" screaming, and I said, "Heaven help the mother that has that baby." And guess what? They brought that baby into my room. And oh, I said, "She's going to be a good choir singer." And that she was. And after that, they took the baby away, and I sat down and I knitted an Afghan. And that Afghan is many, many years old, and I gave it to my granddaughter, Shannon. And now hopefully she's got it carefully placed on an old chair, a rocking chair or something.
Tell them about your milk.
Oh, that's the most important one. I gotta tell you, I was 110 pounds when the baby was born. But did you know, I had milk about a couple of weeks before she was born. And I tell you, I had like 2 big watermelons here. And I said, and I had milk was coming out left and right. And so I had enough milk for every baby that was on that floor, and had enough milk even when I came home. And my doctor N told me that he was going to hire a milk wagon, and he was going to drive the milk wagon, and we're going to peddle a milk to every baby in the city of Milwaukee.
And how long did...
And then I could tell him that after Noreen was born, Dr. N took footprints and handprints, and he took it direct to the post office, and my Emil got that within a few days. How he did it, we don't know, and my Emil was so happy. He took the footprints and the handprints, and they walked from Quonset Point to Quonset Point, showed to everybody, "I'm a daddy, I'm a father." Yeah. He was so thrilled and so happy, yeah. And then on the 6th of January, 1946, at 12 o'clock noon, the doorbell rang, answered the door, and there was my Emil. And he gave me a hug that lasted about 5 or 10 minutes. Then he says, "Where is my darling little sweetheart?" We went into the bedroom there, and he held out his arms to her, and he said, "I am your daddy." And Noreen gave him the biggest smile there ever was. And so then he said, "It was time to eat lunch." And by the way, I made Emil homemade chicken soup with homemade noodles, and I had to get a petition from the parish that I was allowed to give him chicken soup. meat. And so the priest said, Margaret, you can have the chicken too. I said, well, for crying out loud. I said, why not? Do you think I'm going to watch him eat the chicken? Everybody had a big laugh about that. So there he was. Emil was feeding his little girl. And then the next morning, they prayed together. And then the next morning, when it's time for her bath, he said, let me give her a bath. And so he bathed her and that. And I let the two of them talk alone, and they're talking, and she was talking back and forth. It was a beautiful sight to see. And it was a very, very happy day for me, yeah. But it was very, very sad to see my Emil. He was in the Philippine Islands for a year and a half, and then they went to China. And there it was about 20 below zero, and all the boys got sick because of sudden climate change and everything. And I don't know if I should tell you this. My Emil was very sad when they got off the boat. The Chinese men had their little girls all waiting for our boys. And Emil was so hurt when he saw men that served at the altar and giving out communion going with those little girls. And my Emil gave all his money to these Chinese men, take your girls home. He came home broke. But they come back with the girls, and the little girls were crying. And that was his biggest heartache, yeah. To think the men could do this, yeah. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. The Philippine Islands, Emil gave the little kids haircuts. And what he liked to do in the Philippine Islands, the temperature's in the hundreds. But being in the sea beach, they had Quonset huts, and they did their cooking, and they had ice. And so I'd send them Jello and Kool-Aid, and they'd make slush with it. And those kids, their eyes would open up real wide. And also, I would send clothes, and I would send long dresses, and I sent bobby pins and hairpins, and Emil would teach the ladies how to make pin curls. And so Emil gave her long dresses, but one lady didn't get anything, and she cried. So what did Emil do? He went in his bed, and he took off his white bed sheet, and it said Emil S. Holisek, and he gave it to the lady, and she made a dress and had Emil S. Holisek walking. She was so proud, she thought that was a decoration, and everybody roared. They were pointing his finger at Emil.
I never heard that story.
Oh, it was really, 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 really funny, yeah. And did you know, after Emil died, there were 7 different people, servicemen. He gave me their addresses, and he and we had a special code that we would know wherever Emil was. I knew where he was, and we would write to these 7 different people. Only one of these family, the lady is alive, and the CBs had their convention. She come to Milwaukee, special to see me last year. She stayed at the hotel over there. And she was in a wheelchair, and her 2 daughters were with her, come just to see me. I cried my eyeballs out, yeah, and that. And so she writes to me. I even got a Christmas card from her already now, and that. And she writes to me all the time. Well, anyway, the CBs, when they were over at the naval station there in Illinois, they chartered a bus to come to Milwaukee to see me, to tell me all these different things about Emil. But fortunately, it was on Mother's Day, and I was working, and I was out of town, but Noreen was there. So everybody wrote something about Emil in there. And I said, he was a tremendous, tremendous person, yeah. And my Emil never said a bad thing about anybody. He always would find the good. But you know, a lot of times, even like our Green Bay Packers are playing very bad now, at a time they played bad when he was still with us. But he'd point out at the time that they were playing good. He always concentrated on the good. And so that's the legacy that he left me. Yeah. And I know he'd be very, very proud here to see his great-grandson. Yeah. And am I talking too much, Aiden? Looking at me.
He likes it.
Yeah, you know,
You're listening. Yeah. Tell him.
And you know, these people, they were in Florida, and they were in New York, and this Mozzarella, he was an Italian fellow, a real tough, hard-boiled guy. And so he said, I could never be like you, Abel, married and have a baby. And my Abel always would say, you can do. And so this is what he called him, Jim Morelli. You know, whenever we write to him, can do. And guess what? Finally he wrote Abel, he said, guess what? I can do, and I did it. I got married. And oh, my Abel sent him a telegram back and told him how happy he was for him. And every one of these 7 people from Florida, they came, and Iowa, Ohio, Silver Creek, New York, and California. They all came to visit me to thank me. And they all kept their mouths shut where they got this information from. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know why we did that? Because I got one letter from him. It was completely cut out. The only thing was the frame. Because, you know, what Abel wrote to me, what he shouldn't have. So then he came home on a furlough, and I said, now, Abel, we got to fix it so we know where you are. And that's how it was. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Tell how you met him at Alice Chalmers.
Oh, Alice Chalmers. Oh, my God. Yeah. That was the 18th of May, 1939. I was transferred from 5-2 office. I was transferred over to number 1 tractor. And so it was a big, almost about a whole block long. You had to walk. And so when I got to the entrance of number 1 tractor, I saw a young gentleman there, and I told him,
Oh, the phone is ringing.